I hear that all the time. Let me tell you what a libertarian is. Libertarian is someone who says you can be as liberal or as conservative as you want to be. Just don't force others to be like you.
Got it.
That's what we are all about. We are all about long-term solutions, not short-term solutions. We're all about changing culture, not just changing law. Law, we have to remember something. At the end of almost every single law is a guy or a gal with a gun who will put you in a cage. And if you don't want to go in that cage, he or she is going to kill you. That means you only use law when it really matters, not just because I'm angry, not because I don't like you, not because you should do some activity I think you shouldn't do, or whatever the case may be. It's only for important things like life and liberty and property and things like that. That's when you use violence. That's when you use force. That's what libertarians are all about. Welcome to Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live. Yes, I'm still drinking coffee. The brand is strong, and I'm trying my best to get you guys to see that this election year, while it is absolutely about Joe Jorgensen trying to win our presidency, absolutely, that is not the only thing it's about. It is also, in addition to that, it is also about a whole bunch, hundreds and hundreds of local libertarians running in their states, running in their towns, trying to make impact locally in their states, in their cities, in their counties, trying to make that happen. And if you think that's important, then help us. Like, comment, share. Let people know this is out there. Let people know we are making things happen. Let people know that we are a real force in this nation trying to make impact and to make a better country for all of us. I am very lucky today on Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live. I have someone who is running in Missouri, Congress, Missouri. Robert Smith, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Larry. Thank you for having me on your show. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm glad that you came out. I'm glad you put the time. Look at you. Great day. I can see you got your cool hat on in the shade. Not a bad deal.
Sir. Yes, sir. We're delivering a little bit of vegetables up in Kansas City. We deliver to 4- and 5-star restaurants in Kansas City. And
nice.
yeah, it is. It's kind of crunching us with the COVID-19 and then some of the rioting that was happening. So, but whatever restaurants need, we still try to provide a service because we have a job to do.
Sure.
And taking a break in the shade to have a great conversation with you. And Kansas City's a beautiful city. I love it. So
Absolutely.
Super Bowl champions, baby.
That's true. You're right. Yes, absolutely. That's amazing. Very good. So let me ask, I mean, you know, you're trying to make impact. Obviously, you're trying to still do your job. You're trying to service people. I get it. Of all the things you could have done, you chose to run for Congress and to do that this year. Why? Why Congress? Why this year?
Well, as I get older, I start to venture out into entrepreneurship and trying to take care of my family. I'm a husband, 4 children, and
Did you start to 4 children?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Wow.
So,
good for you, brother. Good for you.
Yeah, we're done. We're done. Hopefully 4 productive civil children when they're done being growing up. So
sure.
And we're looking at so I get out into this business adventures and I look at all the regulations. I look at all the permits and permissions. And now with COVID-19, you got even more permissions and permits and requirements that are unconstitutional. And it's really, before COVID happened, I didn't even know it was going to happen. But what I want to do is I wanted to get the government off our backs because they're literally passing so much legislation that they're actually making criminals out of thin air. And that's where I come up with no victim, no crime. Right. And a lot of other people believe that. And I should be able to make an honest dollar any way I can to provide for myself and my family and not need government permission, whether it be at the local, state, or federal level.
Right.
And so I'm a strong proponent. I strongly believe in states' powers.
Got it.
But our federal government's overreaching it. And so I could go and run for a state office and have a very good chance of winning a local seat. But it doesn't do any good to have those beliefs if I still have an overbearing federal government bearing down on us. So I wanted
not the first person. I'm sorry, I didn't cut you off, but
yeah, go for it.
I just want to let you know that you're not the first person to tell me that. I've done a lot of these, and a lot of people who are running for Congress are actually running for a federal office to deal with local issues, and that surprised me. Like, I didn't think when I was first going through this that many people believe that, but I keep hearing it. And you're another person saying, I got to run federal so I can protect local.
Exactly. You got to get them off our backs. And that is my end goal, is to get the federal government off the states' backs, and then allow the states and local governments to handle their issues, because nobody in Illinois knows what my town's going through, and nobody can tell our town what's best for our town and how to solve our town's problems, because you have so many different variables when you just go 100 miles north.
Right.
And
right.
I really strongly believe in like the individualism. I strongly believe that the communities can best suit and handle our issues if we come together and something is important enough to us. But if we have somebody else bearing down on us and trying to give us a one size fits all, it's just not going to work. And honestly, there's enough evidence across the entire United States that proves that that's not the case, that one size fits all doesn't work.
Right. Absolutely. I see it again and again and again. Right. You probably know this, when I teach when my government overlords allow me to go work, when that happens, then I get to teach. Right. And when I teach leadership, and one of the things I teach in leadership is a difference between equal leadership and fair leadership. And equal leadership is actually lazy leadership. You're giving everyone exactly the same when they don't all need the same. But fair leadership is giving each individual what they need to be the most successful they can be when they need it from a leader, right? And that can change.
Exactly.
If you're doing a job, Robert, that you've done for 10 years, you don't need my help. You got it. But now it's a new job. You haven't done this before. Okay, maybe you need some oversight. Brand new for you, right? Whatever the case may be. And that will adjust or shift. Or maybe it's a job you don't like, or you haven't had, you really like. That will also affect what do you need from me. I totally agree. I think local is much better at that than anything else. Absolutely.
You also, on the local level, I believe you have more efficiency, less waste. You also, when it's local, it's actual people's heart into this situation.
Yes.
You have a little bit more of skin in the game, and it's a little bit more personal to you, and therefore you can devote the time and the energy and the love that it needs to solve the solution.
Absolutely. So speaking of solutions, we could probably spend, 3 hours, 6 hours talking about all the problems. Let's not punish everybody on that. Let's instead, are there like 2 or 3 of those issues that for you kind of float to the top?
Yes, sir. I believe that we should I want to really hold people accountable. We have no accountability, and our constitutional law is not applied evenly and fairly across the board. There obviously are some groups that are above the law. You have Congress doing insider trading. I would go to prison for that. You have police who have qualified immunity, and they literally get off from doing things that would normally land everyday common citizens like you and I in jail. And then when they're held accountable, there's my air quotes if you can see them to the side. They get a lesser penalty than what somebody like you or I would get.
Absolutely.
What we could equate to a slap on the wrist. And so I really want to see constitutional law applied equally to everybody across all boards, no matter what social class, no matter what job title you have. Cannabis is a big issue to me. Hemp is a big issue to me. National debt, Social Security.
So hold on. Now you're going down the road. Or you're going too far down the road. Let's take a couple of those. I know
much.
There is. So let's focus on a couple of those, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
first
sir.
Talked about fairness, basically what you talked about. How does a congressperson do that, right? How do you bring in a bill like Justin Amos try to build a bill getting rid of immunity,
qualified immunity?
Qualified immunity. Do you do that? Is it you speaking about it more like an AOC does? She talks a lot. Is that the way you do it? I mean, how do you actually implement that kind of stuff? I think you're right. The question is, how does a guy like you trying to hustle and make a living, how do you make that happen?
Well, I think the first thing that we do is I think education is key, and just people bringing it out and talking about it.
Yeah.
Especially figures in Congress. You got a congressperson talking about this certain subject, and then people need to take up the initiative, and they need to get in the fight and put some skin in the game, and they need to take it up on their local levels, because nothing's stopping states from saying, hey, we don't honor qualified immunity. That's just a Supreme Court ruling, which the Supreme Court is not an arbiter of the Constitution. They're only an opinion. That's why they give opinions, and it's not law. And so then nothing's stopping us from saying, hey, we want the police to have their own insurance. And we need to start setting up guidelines on why do some of these officers, why do some of these DAs, these judges, why are there so many blatant violations of constitutional law, and then they still keep their job or go somewhere else? And so when it comes down to, I'm not real big on the federal government on the Congress side stepping outside of the 35 enumerated powers allowed to Congress, but that doesn't stop me from educating and opening up and talking about some things that we can do.
So you're saying using the press you're going to get, using the bully pulpit you're going to get, you can push the issue down to the actual culture and the people.
Exactly. And then when people start making change, bring it to light and show how it's working. And provide the example for other people to take it up and be like, hey, this worked for Missouri. This worked for Oklahoma. This worked for this. And allow people to pick and choose what would work for their area. And when somebody stumbles upon a cure, obviously everybody's more apt to take it up. But when you go to the one size fits all doesn't work. And it never has, and it never will. And so when you do the one size fits all, you literally make everybody fail. If you had the 50 state experiment, somebody's going to succeed, somebody's going to fail, somebody's going to be mediocre.
Right.
But you can always go back and find what worked, and you can always change it and implement what worked. I know of a lady who's writing a Kansas bill for cannabis, and she said she's literally going around to all the states and she's picking the stuff that was actually successful.
That's brilliant.
And she's going to put it in the bill. So and she's going to negate and eliminate everything that wasn't successful. And she got those ideas because we had different states doing different things about the cannabis issue. And I can't preach it enough that I love the 50 state experiment idea. You know, get it to the local level.
You said it like 6 times. I love it. It's one size doesn't fit all. I love it. I think it's totally right.
It works.
Yes.
Well, you know, one size fits all, you're always going to have a disgruntled group, right? But if you have 50 different solutions, you can go to a place that fits your shoe size. And you can go there, put the shoe on, and walk around town. And that's what we need. I moved to Missouri for opportunity. Land's cheap, it rains, you can grow stuff. There's large metropolitan areas all around that love to absorb from fresh vegetables, and it's opportunity. You know, there's several places I could have moved, and I chose a place that fit me and gave me opportunity. And if a state sees people leaving in droves, take a clue. If a state sees people coming in droves, thumbs up, you're doing something right.
I'm with you. So you moved right in naturally into our second piece, which is cannabis. Why is cannabis such a big deal for you?
Well, cannabis, for one, it was blackballed through lobbying and lies, and everything that you know my older generations were taught about cannabis is wrong. And so we actually made legislation based off of fear and lies. So it should have never been passed anyway. Second of all, it has a lot of medical benefits. Third, what you're doing is this is a natural plant, and you're actually criminalizing a whole bunch of people who did nothing wrong to nobody else other than I like to go home after I farm and smoke a doobie. You know, I mean, that's a criminal to me. We have sex trafficking, we have child pedophilia, we have murders, we have corruption in our authority positions, and you're worried about somebody at home minding their own damn business. That doesn't make sense. You know, you overspend our budgets by trillions, and you're passing up an easy way to stimulate the local economies, provide jobs. You're giving up an easy way to actually let people afford to live for themselves and take care of themselves. And that's not the government I want anything to do with.
Well, you did it again. You are good at this. You went right into the third piece, which was spending all the money in debt. You're making it easy for me, Robert. You're doing a good job here. So let's go right into debt. All right. So you spoke about, first you talked about the idea of fairness, then cannabis, and now debt. So tell me about the debt. Why is that a big deal for you?
Well, for one, you know, it's written somewhere, and I know where, but it is what it is. If you can't be trusted with the little, you can't be trusted with the lot.
Mm-hmm.
And we obviously can't trust them with the $3 trillion budget, because they went and made it $4 trillion. And no matter how much, even if they found a way to collect all the taxes they need to have a balanced budget, history shows me that they're going to constantly keep overspending. And when they constantly keep overspending, they're going to constantly keep looking for new ways to create revenue. And there's only one way that the government gets revenue. They take it. And they take it from people like you and I. They take it from the wealthy. They take it all the way down to the poor, when they still charge you property tax, when they still charge you sales tax. You know, in my town, Nevada, we have sales tax on food.
Wow.
I believe, yeah, 5%, I believe.
Wow.
That is wrong. You know, that is a basic necessity of life, and you're taxing people for it.
Yes.
And if you just got the budgets under control, I believe that, yes, we need to raise revenue. And I believe, yes, there are constitutional ways to do it. But when you're constantly overspending your budget, and you're constantly wasting it on white elephant deals, and you're constantly going above and beyond what your powers are as Congress, you're going to constantly keep knocking at my door for more money. And you're going to really legislate people into poverty and failure. And it would be a better society. You know, not everybody's bad people. I know plenty of people that if they were wealthy, they would throw gobs of money at social issues. They would throw gobs of money at the local community center. They would throw gobs of money at the local arts center. But they don't have it because it's being stolen. And we need to fix that. We need to get a national debt, or we need to get our national debt to start paying it off. And we also need to get our budget reduced and minimized under the enumerated powers of Congress, so that way states can choose, hey, we want this program, we're recommending this sales tax or whatever tax they come up with, and then allow the people of the state to vote on it. In fact, we voted on stuff in Missouri, and our state legislator still tries to turn around and pass stuff anyway.
Yep.
You know, I mean, we overwhelmingly voted against the PPDM, prescription drug monitoring program. So PMDP. We voted no. They're still trying to push it. You know, I mean, we voted to get rid of gerrymandering. We voted on something that the sunshine laws, and they're still trying to turn around. And they're still trying to put in their own legislation. And that tells me that why even let us vote if you're going to do what you want anyway?
Well, you brought up something important that I've talked about in the past also, which is people were teasing me a bit when I was running for governor, and that I wasn't always talking about lowering taxes. That wasn't the biggest piece. My bigger piece was what you said, lowering spending.
Yeah.
Right? That was my bigger piece, was lowering spending. If we lower spending, then we can start paying off debt and lowering taxes. Let's stop spending so damn much, right? That was a bigger piece for me. I think you're right. Even if magically we could raise enough taxes to pay off everything, they just spend more.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if you could do it, they would just spend more. It's terrible. I completely agree. So let me ask you. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, everybody, will vote on a politician who says, let's slash taxes. Everybody will vote for one, right? But it doesn't matter if you slash taxes if you don't cut back the wasteful spending.
Absolutely.
That's how you budget checkbooks. I need $100 for this at the end of the year, at the end of the month. You got to cut spending somewhere, or you got to go make it. And if they're not making it because they automatically slash their revenue, pretty much slash taxes, then how are you going to pay for all the stuff that you got now plus the stuff that you dream about adding? And it's not financially sustainable.
Excuse me. Whew. Wow, sorry. So no, I'm with you completely. So let me ask you, do you have a cool slogan yet? Do you have a build that wall or a Medicaid for all? Do you have one of those cool slogans yet?
Yeah, I have two that I throw around. The first one is the working class representing the working class.
Ooh, and then I like that. And the second one is first. That's a good one. The working class representing the working class. I like that.
Yes, sir. And that's what we need. I mean, if you look at a lot of our representatives, they get a lot of big donors. I mean, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, red or blue, everybody agrees that, you know, the blue accuse the Republicans of taking big money. The Republicans accuse the Democrats of taking big money. Both sides agree that the other side does it, you
Right.
know, and it's obvious when you go and you look at their FEC reports and stuff like that. And so, you know, when they get into office, I heard an interview that one guy, he was new. He spends most of his time rubbing elbows and lobbying for donations to the party. And how can you do your job that you're supposed to be doing if you're too worried about money for the next election? You shouldn't have to worry about money for the next election if you're a good representative, because your name and the things that you do will carry the weight itself. And
right, so working class, representing working class is one. What was the other one?
The other one is real solutions for our real problems.
Real solutions for our real problems. I like that. I think I like the working class one better.
I like them both.
They're both good.
Because I actually have real solutions. You know, like you look at like Social Security, and they've known about Social Security for decades, right? You can't solve it in 40 years, but you're going to preach to me this year that you're going to solve it, right?
Now I have the answer.
Yeah, you know, and it's just a really super simple solution to, you know, fix Social Security. All they got to do, for one, stop borrowing from it, right? I mean, if you put the $2.8 trillion back, Social Security would be fine, right? And then another thing is it just comes down to the budget. It's just like, you've got to stop overspending and borrowing from Social Security. It's just really super simple. And I actually have a solution on how to put funding back into Social Security. What I'd like to do is, the people who are on Social Security right now do not deserve having their Social Security benefits cut. We created a system that now they are reliant on, and if we rip the rug from underneath them, we're wrong. And I would honestly like to see in 40 years Social Security's phased out. And give people the option to be in Social Security, but to mandate it. They take, when I work a real job, not a real job, but excuse me, but when I work for somebody else other than myself, it's 6.2%. But when I do work for my own self, it's 12.4%.
Yeah.
And then they tell me, that I'm not going to get the benefits I deserve when I'm trying to retire, and that in 2035 now it's insolvent. And I'm trying to work for myself and be self-reliant and self-sufficient. And you're going to take 12.4% of my pay by force. I don't have a choice.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then later on down the road, it won't be there. And we really need to make it to where people can be self-sufficient. And if you want to participate in the program, participate. But if you don't want to participate in the program, then honestly, if a lot of people are just educated about investing in the stock market and don't panic when it crashes, but to actually buy more, you get way more than 6.2% when you're ready to retire, you know. And that's what it really comes to.
That's why you mean the real solutions, real problems piece. That's really what you're talking about.
Yeah, like instead of kicking the can down the road, there's actual, you know, we could solve a lot of issues by legalizing cannabis and hemp.
Oh,
you know, like,
sure.
I'm a big proponent for hemp. In fact, I would grow it in Missouri on my farm if I didn't have to pay a $5,000 fee to grow it.
Yes, sure.
You know what I mean? And then I got to pay for lab tests to make sure that the THC content isn't too high, or else I got to burn my crops.
There we go.
You got to pay for all kinds of stuff. And hemp, it saved us during World War II. It saved us throughout history.
Let me go, if I could, to another piece here. The biggest thing that's affecting most people prior to George Floyd, obviously, but still even now, is the COVID-19 crisis. You actually told me that you were planning on doing this interview inside, except some people said you can't go inside because of COVID. So I'm actually happy they threw you out. This is a better spot, but I'm just saying.
Thank you.
But it did actually affect us. I mean, it really did. So do you have a view on the response to COVID-19?
Yeah, I think we should sue our government for yelling fire in a theater. You know, I mean, you know, they caused a mass panic. They even got me a little worried. I'll admit, I was a little worried. I just had a brand new baby, March 10th. My wife's in the hospital. They're saying something like 3% death rate, you know, and they're saying like 1 to 2 million people are supposed to be dead by August. And I got to be honest with you, when you do the math, 1 to 2 million people dead by August, that means 1/3 of the population was sick, you know?
I see.
And, you know, they go and they close down all this stuff. They force businesses to close. You know, early on in the growing season, one of my biggest customers are restaurants. And
oh, sure, of course. Yes.
I'm used to making $2,000 a month, and that supports my family. That's a very modest, you know, I think modest living. I'm making $50 a week, you know.
Wow.
And
I've actually difference. Oh my God, big difference.
It is. It's huge, and we're struggling, and you know, it's part of the American struggle, whatever. But our government caused it, you know. So I was like, I reached out to the. Yeah, exactly. I reached out to the farmers market, my local town farmers market. They tell me because of restrictions, there's no room for me, you know? And so when you're in the restaurant business, you know, I grow stuff for restaurants to prepare and people love it, but it's not stuff that just fly off the grocery stores. It's not stuff that you take to the market and everybody's like, oh, I love this stuff. They don't buy it in the hundreds of pounds. They buy it in the pound or two. And so I left some stuff sitting in the fields and I'm throwing stuff away because I'm trying to keep it as long as I can. But as the seasons progress, things get hot. And, you know, it's just now I'm throwing money away. I'm trying to find ways to make money. And, you know, it's my government not believing and not trusting American citizens to take care of themselves. And then in the end, they're like, the CD said they released the wrong projections.
I remember that. Yes.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, you ruined me and you didn't even know that what you were doing. You know, I read in Washington State, the DHSS head guy said that they labeled gunshot victims as COVID-19 death.
Yeah.
You know, you got New York putting COVID-19 patients in nursing homes.
In nursing homes, where we had the worst. Yes.
Where they say that those people are more prone to getting sick. It's like
43%.
Are you guys trying to design this?
43% of our deaths came out of nursing homes. 43%. That's how bad it was. Yeah. Absolutely. And terrible.
They yelled fire. They yelled fire in a theater. They caused mass panic, and they ruined a lot of small mom and pop shops.
Absolutely.
And then you got people complaining that the meat industry is owned by 80% of foreign markets. Well, guess who allowed that? Congress. Okay. I mean, any type of mergers and stuff like that has to go through congressional committees, and they allowed stuff like that to happen. And we did it in the name of, I'm going to sell my business. I'm going to make a few $100 billion, but I have no discernment on future consequences. And that's the biggest issue I have with our politicians, is they do not have the eyes to see 10 feet in front of them when they do something.
You're right. It's short-term thinking. It's not long-term thinking at all. And good leaders need to have long-term thinking.
I think good leaders also shouldn't react so much with emotion and feelings as much as logic and critical thinking.
Sure.
And you know, I mean, it's just a mess, Larry. It's just a mess.
So let's go to the next elephant in the room, which happened, which was exacerbated because of the COVID response, and that is the George Floyd response and issues and all the horrible stuff that's happening from his terrible death. Do you have a view on that?
So, Mr. Floyd was denied his constitutional rights, and Mr. Floyd was murdered. And I hate to see it. I hate to see stuff like that. An American citizen dying at the hands of people who are supposed to serve and protect. And this isn't an isolated case. This is, you know, you had the EMT, Breonna Taylor, was that her name? Killed in her sleep.
Yep.
No knock, plainclothes warrant.
Yep.
Right? That's why I'm against no knock warrants. That's why I'm against red flag laws, is because it don't matter if one person's constitutional rights are trampled on. It's one too many. And you cannot have one person lose their constitutional rights, because that's why we have it, is to make sure that it goes across the board, you know. And then let's see, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he was also shot in his sleep by a no knock red flag law. you know. And then there was a lady in I can't remember where it was, but I read the news article, and a neighbor called the police for a welfare check because her front door was open, and the cops go around the back, and I think
Yep.
she's like playing video games or something like that, and they shot her
And they
dead
shot
through the
her
window.
through the window.
Through
Yep.
her damn window. Pardon my language. It's, you can't, come on. And you know what? If things like that happen, I want accountability, damn it. I don't want
Mm-hmm.
somebody to be like, oh, it was an accident. If I have an accident that results in somebody's death, that's negligent homicide. You know what I mean? If I accidentally kill somebody with my car, I go to jail still. I don't get any, it was an accident. I don't have any qualified immunity. I'm held accountable. And, you know, it's just a damn shame that we've allowed this type of, I don't even want to call it systematic racism as much as it is systematic constitutional abuse. Because down in Florida, you got the cop that got caught planting hundreds of drugs hundreds of times on people to arrest them. He targeted everybody and anybody because he's trying to pad his record or whatever
Yep.
he's trying to do. He's trying to look like this great cop. In reality, you're trampling our constitutional rights, and you're supposed to uphold it.
This goes back to your first issue of equality and accountability.
Exactly.
Goes right back to it.
Exactly.
Good.
And I
right.
watched your podcast, and I liked your idea on the insurance. You
Oh,
know?
thank you. I'm glad. Please
Yes,
take it.
I mean,
please take it.
I've started talking about it. You know, if a police officer or law enforcement, judge, DA, if they become too high to, you know, too costly to insure, you ain't got to worry about firing them. They
Nope.
won't get covered with insurance, and they just can't have a job. Just like if I can't go get a CDL, well, I can, don't get that wrong. But if I screw up and I make it to where I can't go get a CDL, I can't drive a truck.
There we go.
I mean, just easy peasy. I really liked that idea. I was like, there's some outside of the box thinking. And I definitely think that we should look towards making it a way that it does, the taxpayers aren't paying for the insurance.
Absolutely. Yes. Because the problem, the biggest piece, I think, on this piece, well, if I follow what your idea of accountability, if the government, local government has to pay, right? If they have to pay for it, then it's not in the government's best interest to get the truth when they investigate. It's in their best interest to either cover it up or let the person resign or whatever. But if the government's not paying for it, then it becomes in the government's best interest to find out what really happened. And it actually helps two ways. Right now, the government will actually also fire or get rid of or have resigned the good cops who were nearby or even in the area. They'll get rid of everybody. But if it's an insurance-based piece, they'll find just the truth. And if there was a good cop who was going, stop, he or she doesn't get fired. Only the bad cops get fired. And that's why I also like the insurance piece, because the insurance also allows the government to actually be better at investigating.
Exactly. And, you know, I posted on my Facebook page the other day, there was a cop in Buffalo that got fired because she stopped another fellow officer from choking someone, and she lost her pension.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So, you know, everybody's like, well, where are the good cops? Well, I'll tell you, you know, if they do anything for justice, they get fired. I'll tell you a personal story. This is a true story, God's honest true story. So I know a gentleman that I go camping with, and we associate quite often. And he used to be a former military MP, and then he went and after he got out of the military, obviously gets into the police business, right? He becomes law enforcement. Excuse me. He tells me a story. So one night, him and another guy are apprehending a suspect, whatever you want to call him. The guy's handcuffed. He's not resisting. The cop doesn't like the guy. And so the cop cheap shops him a few times in the face and bloodies his nose, I think, and blacks his eye a little bit, a little cut on the eye or something like that. Well, the cop files the police report. And I don't mean to use the cop as in a derogatory word, but the police officer files his police report. But he leaves out what happened. My friend, who I'm, for his protection, this is God's honest story, he didn't file his report like that. He filed the truth. So police chief comes up to him and says, hey, we need you to redo your police report. We need the police reports to match. He's like, well, that's not what happened. What I wrote down in my police report is truth, and I'm not going to change it. He refused to change it. Later on down the road, he's involved in a dangerous situation, And when I say dangerous, I mean shots exchanged. He calls for backup.
Doesn't come.
Nobody came.
It's exactly,
they left him high and dry.
That is exactly what Sergeant Dorsey told me last week. She's a retired LAPD. She told me that last week. She says, once that happens, all of a sudden you don't get backup anymore.
No,
yes.
They'll leave you high and dry. And It's like, you back us or you're out of here. And that's why we need to get rid of qualified immunity. That's why we need to hold our DAs accountable. We need to hold our judges accountable.
Absolutely.
I think we need to have a jury, no closed door courts. It needs to be a jury, and you need to involve the community, and everybody needs to have a say in what they feel is justification. I think body cameras should be mandatory.
Sure.
And if you're on the clock and your camera goes off for 5 minutes, I think you should be barred from having another police officer job, unless of course maybe it gets ripped off in the line of duty in a tussle or something. But I've seen videos where they'll literally adjust their camera to point off a different direction or even turn it off sometimes. Yep. And
so you're
if I did that, I'm going to jail.
Absolutely. You know, you are talking about a lot of good stuff, and I like it. I like the 3 issues you brought up. I like the way you covered COVID and George Floyd. So how in the world are you going to make impact? This is COVID hitting us. It's hard. We can't do big events. It's difficult. Robert, how do we make impact this year so that people can hear what you have to say? What are we going to do?
Well, unfortunately, politics involves money.
Yeah, it does.
And I hate it to be that way. You know, I got an event coming up next week, or June 6th, this Saturday in Harrisonville, Missouri. It's called Grill and Chill with the Candidates. I got a gubernatorial candidate,
Grill
Rick Combs.
That.
We're going to grill up some hot dogs and chips and have some water at the park, place for your kids to play. And we got a covered yawning. And, you know, one thing that I'm worried about is a lot of people's not going to come out because the COVID-19 still being kind of hyped up. And then, so I have some.
So you're telling me we need money, and I agree. And look, on the bottom of this, you'll see if you want more info on Robert, head over to robertsmith2020.com. If you're in Missouri, why wouldn't you want to support this guy? He cares about you. He cares about Missouri. He's running. You know, help him out if you can. It's important for you to help him if you can, right? If you've got some cash, send him some cash. Give him $5, $10, $20. If you're one of those wealthy people who just sold the phone he was talking about, give him like $2,000, right? Give him whatever you can give if you can. But let's say you don't have that. I get it. A lot of people are struggling. No worries. You know what Robert also needs? Your time. He needs social media warriors. He needs people to knock on doors. He needs people to phone bank for him. He needs all those things. If you're looking to help out somebody trying to make an impact in Missouri, time for you to head over to robertsmith2020.com. If you've got some cash, give him some cash. If you don't, give him some time. Sign up and give him an hour a week, 2 hours a week. Give him some time.
Just social media shares is a big deal because a lot of people get to see it. A lot of people, all they need to know is that they have a viable candidate that
100%.
Has his head on straight. He's a productive member of society, or even she in some areas. And even if you're not in Missouri, don't hesitate to offer any type of help because I'm voting on federal issues.
There we go.
You know, and what I want to do won't just impact my community as much as it'll impact everybody for good. And I encourage everybody, if you believe in personal liberty, if you believe in personal freedom, if you believe in individual choice, no victim, no crime, if you believe in that you want to live your life the way you get, the one life you get, we get one life on this earth, and you want to live it their way, or you want to live it your way, as long as you don't transgress against another person's constitutional rights, then you should help me win Missouri's 4th district against an incumbent, Vicky Hartzler, who really has proven that she's unconstitutional. She doesn't care about personal liberty or personal freedom. She's really big government. And we don't have to live like that because there's enough people in the community that actually care and love their community. We know how to take care of ourselves.
So hold on, let me ask you about this. Is this a 2-person race, 3-person race, 4-person race? How many people running?
It's 3. There's a Democrat. It'll go down to 1 Republican, and it'll go down to 1 primary, because I have a primary contender that kind of came out of the blue on the last day. And so we got a primary to win in August.
Okay.
So,
All right. So let me ask then, with all that in mind, how do we get around the fear? How do we get around the fear that I'm scared of everything, right? I'm scared COVID's going to kill me. I'm scared the Chinese are going to kill me. I'm scared Biden's going to make me a socialist. I'm scared Trump's, going to destroy my family. I'm scared, right? So I'm going to rush to the left or rush to the right. How do we get people to not be so scared and do what you said, right? Which is not vote only out of emotion, but also vote out of, someone who has real solutions. How do we get the people of Missouri to go, yeah, let me do that and not just resort to fear?
That question right there, man, is $1 million question.
Yes, it is.
And, I think just getting an education out to people and letting them know that that they have a different option. Somebody once said there's nothing to fear but fear itself.
Yep.
Because once you start reacting with fear, it's proven that if you're in a stressful situation and you panic and act out of fear, the chances of that stressful situation survival go down.
Yep.
And so the more that you lose control of your emotions and the more that you let fear drive you, the riskier things get. And we see the risk actually manifesting in our streets now.
Yes.
Because I believe all of this, I believe George Floyd's death, I believe that Breonna Taylor's death, I believe that all those unconstitutional deaths that we've seen could have been prevented if we just stuck with the Constitution.
Okay, and I like that.
If we wouldn't have gone outside of that Constitution, this would have been nipped in the bud a long time ago when people were held accountable for their wrongdoing. And
I feel like what you're kind of going to my other question, which is, obviously, I hope you win. I want you to win. I think you'd be amazing if you win. But if you don't win, have you decided what a secondary win is? Have you decided what is a win if you can't get the actual house? Have you made a decision on that?
Yeah, actually, I was talking with my wife when it all started, and I was like, she was along the same questions as you. Was like, well, what if you lose? And the thing is like, I'm just going to plant the seed.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can plant the seed that grows into a tree of liberty, I win. If I can inspire people to get involved.
How do you measure that? Do you measure by number of votes you get? Do you measure by a policy change? Do you measure by being in the media? Do you measure it by amount of money you raise, right? How can you, Robert, measure and go, you know what? Yeah, I planted a seed. I did because this thing happened.
That's the crazy thing about life. You never know the good that you're doing in life and that the impact that you had on people. And I've gone years without knowing the impact that I've had on people until one day they're like, I wanted to tell you, you inspired me. You never know the good that you do in the world. And that's how I think sometimes a lot of people can start to feel so useless, is because you never know the great things that you've done for others. And we every day inspire others. We every day, when we make somebody smile or we do something kind, every day we touch other people. It's the butterfly effect.
Mm-hmm.
And I might never know in my entire life the good that I've done, but I know that if I stay positive and I know that if I keep doing it, it's going to impact people. And I know that because there have been a few people who have confided in the fact that I changed their lives in the good. And I don't need validation. I just want to put that energy out there so it can multiply, and you'll get the fruits of your labor one day. And there is no way I can judge it. I just know that if I just keep being the person that I am and I keep talking the way that I am, I met a high school. I was at my son's, he had a school event and he did a presentation, and I met one of his classmates and his older sister who's in high school. She's been class president since she got to high school. And she told me she's been following me since I first started to run for president.
Wow.
And
it's amazing.
Yeah, and I ran for president. I started off I started off 3 years ago. I was going to run for president. I kind of realized that was a really tough task to bring upon myself. And so I wanted to redirect my focus on something a little bit more winnable.
I get that.
And so I went the congressional route, running for U.S. House. And she's been following me since the beginning. I never knew that.
Nice.
And she's not the only story out there. And I know that there's plenty of people that are being inspired, plenty of people who would never really step up and become and get involved in politics, but they see somebody else like myself doing it, and it just comes down to the fact that I believe in positive energy, and I'm going to put everything out there that I can. And when I leave this world, my legacy is with my children, and you know, hopefully they get to they model of being good, productive citizens and loving their neighbors and not being judgmental on
There's
people.
There's an old saying about kids. Kids don't do what we say; they do what we do.
Yeah.
So
that's the truth. That's the truth. I tell my kids all the time, don't do that, don't do that. And I'm like, oh God, okay, whatever.
Absolutely, 100%. All right, Robert, I want to say thank you so much for coming on. This was amazing. For those of you who want more information on Robert, please head over to robertesmith2020.com. Support him as you can. And if you can't support him financially, share, like, and comment on his stuff. Let the Twitterverse and the Facebookverse and the YouTubeverse, if that's what you call them, let them all see what he's got to say and get his name out there. Thank you so much, Robert. I appreciate it.
Multiverse. Hey, thanks, Mr. Sharpe. I appreciate your time, sir. Thank you so much.
All righty. Have a good one, guys. I'll see you all later on.